Yeah. We can
Well, you can ask the question. Let's just have a discussion and see what we can.
Cool.
Depends on y'all. Y'all vote it out. Y'all don't want to vote it out. It's up to you. Okay, we got everything we need.
I will put a sign-up sheet if you want to make that
Okay,
announcement.
sure. All right, it's 8 o'clock. Good morning. Thanks for all of you being here. Before we get started, Vice Chairman, would you have a word of prayer for us, please, sir?
Yes, thank you. Shall we pray? Heavenly Father, we thank you for this day, and we ask special prayer for our country in the time of the virus, and be with everyone, and may we be vigilant and do as requested. Lord, we pray for your guidance in all that we do, for it's in Christ's name we pray. Amen.
Amen. Thank you. We have a sign-up sheet if any of you have any need to speak to any of the bills that we'll be dealing with today. The first bill we have, you have in your files the Senate bill substitute to Senate Bill 188. This is a bill that we heard testimony on the last time we met. We just did not have the final substitute. We can take action on this one. Is there any discussion, questions, or anything concerning the bill that we, as I said, we'd already had it presented and questions were asked? If everybody's okay with this, I'll be willing to entertain a motion.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, ma'am.
since this is a substitute, what did we add? What did we do to it?
He was with us last time we met and presented the bill, and he talked about the bill from the substitute. I'm just providing you with the substitute language that is the substitute to let you, for your review. We can vote on it, or if you've got a problem, please let us.
I don't necessarily have a problem. I just think we do need to at least have the clip note version of what this is.
All right. Do we have someone here? Stacy, would you like to come to the mic and review that for us?
Yes, sir, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. My name is Stacy Freeman. I represent Munich American Reassurance Company. It's Georgia domestic reinsurance company. It's Georgia's largest insurance company, formed in the 1950s. We support this bill, and we support the Georgia Insurance Department and what it's doing. And specifically to the question of what changed, ma'am, so the internal parts of the bill, specifically lines 250 to 404, those were updates that the National Association of Insurance Commissioners provided with regard to the potential preemption of Georgia law by international treaties. So the NAIC finalized the language that I just referenced, and that way Georgia law will not be preempted by federal law. So that was the change that occurred this past summer.
All right. We have another question. Representative Carson.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I feel like I know a little bit about this, so can I ask what I believe is an educated question?
Senate Bill 188 is what we're talking
then
about.
I withdraw.
Okay. All right. Any other questions? As I said, this is the one that Senator Walker presented to us last time. And this is the actual substitute. So are there any other questions from the committee about this? All right. This is the appropriate time. 24? Okay, we have 24.
0228S. Move it to the floor for a vote. Thank you.
All right. Do I have a second? Motion and second. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? All right. Thank you. Okay. We also have a bill, House Bill 606 by Representative Bentley. This is LC 460133. If you would please come and present that for us. Correction. LC 431635S. 1635S. Good morning.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman and members of the committee. I'm here to present House Bill 606 to you relating to requiring life insurers to provide certain policy information to funeral homes within 24 hours of receipt of the funeral home's notification of an insurer's passing. Just give you a little
Excuse me, this is substitute to House Bill 606. This is LC 431635S. I don't see anything in the language.
You have a different.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Okay. Okay, well, this is much different than I was expecting, so.
Okay.
So, Mr. Chairman, because I am just now seeing this language.
Okay.
I am not prepared to,
Make the presentation.
I'm not,
All right.
but I do have some people here prepared to speak to it, but I'm not prepared to make the presentation with just seeing this language.
All right. Who is the sponsor of the bill then? Just a moment.
Amendments, but I didn't realize it was going to be it's a whole new bill practically. Yes. So with that being said, I'm not prepared to present this. If the chairman or the committee will allow, yes, okay. Okay.
Okay. Since you are here to speak to your bill, we have that in file here. I was just misinformed about how this was going to, about this bill. So if you will, please go ahead and just present your bill to us, please.
The original bill that I was discussing?
The original bill. Make sure we have the right LC number here.
I have LC 460133.
All right, go ahead.
And that LC 431635S, I believe, is the part that needs to be added to the bill.
Okay, all
Okay.
right. Okay, very good then. Now it's making sense. Okay, please, go
I may
ahead.
continue now?
Yes, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. As I stated, this bill will will require life insurers to provide certain policy information to funeral homes within 24 hours of receipt of the funeral home's notification of insurer's passing. And the purpose of this legislation, in the funeral business, oftentimes we run into problems where families don't have the adequate information about who is the beneficiary or the amount of the policy. And when we contact the insurance companies, oftentimes it takes them 72 or more hours to provide just basic information of knowing, just to verify who is the beneficiary, verifying if this policy will cover a certain dollar amount for a service. For instance, there's been times that I've contacted an insurance company just to verify that this person is the beneficiary and that this policy will cover a $10,000 funeral. That is the only two questions that we ask to an insurance company. Families are making plans to have a service on a Saturday perhaps, and this is a Thursday, and the insurance company tell us they have to wait 72 hours to verify those 2 questions that I asked. And that puts the families in a really bad position, and it puts us in a bad position. Can you all hear me well? Because it's just echoing off. Okay.
Yes, yes, we're hearing you. Thank you.
And oftentimes it puts the funeral home directors in a really bad position of trying to figure out how we're going to take care of this service for this family, and it puts the family in a really bad position as well, because they don't really have. Oftentimes, they don't have all the necessary information to verify those 2 questions that we ask. And we're just trying to figure out a way to get these insurance companies to, it's just 2 simple questions. And if they have the information in front of them, we feel like they should be able to answer those 2 questions. Verifying that Patty Bentley is the beneficiary, and just answering the simple question of, can this policy cover a $5,000, $10,000, $20,000 policy? And as it's stated in the bill, this information will only be submitted to a funeral home, a authorized representative of a funeral home licensed with the Secretary of State. And as I stated, the confirmation or denial that the proceeds of the life insurance policy will be sufficient to cover the decedent's funeral expenses. And lastly, all insurers contacted pursuant to this code section shall verify their funeral home's license number with the Secretary of State prior to the release of any of the requested information. So it wouldn't be asking for very confidential information from the insurance companies. We just need those 2 questions answered, and to make things easier for the families and for the funeral directors.
All right.
And I stop right there if
Yes,
there's any questions.
you have some questions.
Yes.
21. Let's see, number 12.
Thank you, Representative, for bringing this to us. In my experience, I've been in the insurance business since '94, and a lot of times when a death occurs, the first thing the family has to have, or the beneficiary has to have, a death certificate. And then second, if the funeral home calls my office or the insurance company, they say, well, hey, we can't give that information to you. You need to talk to the family. And so in my experience, it's always been the family or the beneficiary that has said, I have X amount in life insurance, and the family deals directly with the funeral home. That way it doesn't get the insurance company or the agents that sold the policy in the middle of saying, well, he said, she said. Is a lot better when it comes from the family, because you can get yourself in a lot of trouble on something like that. That's just my 2 cents. But thank you.
Yes, sir. May I respond?
Certainly.
Good point. Thank you for that. But in addition to that, there's times that families would tell us one thing, and if we don't have something in front of us to verify what they're saying, they can tell us, yeah, this policy will cover a $10,000 funeral, only to learn later the decedent took out a loan for $8,000, and there's no way to pay for this $10,000 funeral. And so this is a way for us to get that information directly from the insurance company to ensure there's no problems with the funeral homes getting paid and no problem with the families getting their loved ones buried.
All right. Number 24.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just a quick question. When you submit that, do you include an assignment of benefits or something, an authorization for you to get this information? I've had similar experiences. One of the things that we have found is sometimes the wife may be the one coming to see you, but they are not aware that the mother may be the beneficiary on it, and then no matter what you find out, it's still going to go to the other person. So I'm looking for, do you have a good assignment of benefits or something like that so you can determine who you need to get the release from? That's another part of it, is getting that information. It gets sketchy. Again, that's why we usually have to deal with the family, and then we will respond as much as we can. But sometimes there's that differential. Maybe a policy, but they're not the right beneficiary, or they may think that they are, but they haven't got on their computer that the beneficiary is actually the mother. I've had that happen. So.
And you're absolutely right, and that's another point that I was trying to make, that when we call to verify that, we're verifying that Patty Bentley say she's a beneficiary, And it turns out, that's all we asking for your insurance company to verify that Patty is the beneficiary.
Yeah.
And if she's not, they're not gonna tell us who. We just need to know, because that's what the family told us, that this is the person who's the beneficiary. We just verifying what the family has told us. And all we're asking, if the insurance company can give us that information within 24 hours. 72 hours, most insurance companies are telling us it takes 72 hours or longer to just answer those questions. And it just really makes it hard. And oftentimes, too, if I may add, and I know some of you may be wondering why the families don't have this information already. There's been many times where insurance company has sold to another insurance company, and the family don't have a new policy. Or someone passed away in the midst of that sale, that transaction, and there's no new policy, and they don't know who's the beneficiary. They're not sure how much the policy amount is, and that's all we need to know is just verify what the family's told us. This is the beneficiary, and can this policy cover this dollar amount for a service? And will they take an assignment? So if they will accept an assignment from a funeral home, then we'll work that out with the families.
Okay.
Yes.
The release has to be signed by the right person. Again, if the
Right.
carrier has mom as the beneficiary and it's signed by Mary, the sister, or that thinks that she is, we can't get that info. They can't even release it to you because they're not authorized, no matter who it is. Does that make sense? You've got to have the person that would be in charge of the policy, which would be the beneficiary,
true.
to get the release.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
Right, that's true.
Number 28.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Representative Bentley, isn't it true that your industry performs an invaluable service to the general public when someone loses their loved one? Your profession in particular is there in this time of crisis and need. Is that not true?
That is true. Yes.
And I think you're in the funeral business, aren't you?
For those that didn't know, yes, I am.
But, and my point is very serious. I'm enormously sympathetic, but I have to join my colleagues with the insurance background. It's just highly problematic because you have to have and I'm not an attorney, but I would assume you'd have to have some sort of power of attorney on behalf of that's signed by the beneficiary. And I know you don't even know who the beneficiary is, but that's the person that has the legal right to the proceeds of the policy. And otherwise, I don't see how anyone other than the beneficiary could grant you the legal right to find out about the benefits that are otherwise due and payable to them. So I'm enormously sympathetic, but it's sort of a conundrum. I don't know how you can speed up the process.
Thank you for that question. So if I may just give another quick example. If we're meeting with a family, and again, if the family say Patty Bentley is the beneficiary, Patty fill out these forms, turn it over to the funeral home. Funeral home send these to your insurance company down in Thomasville. You've received this paperwork, didn't realize Patty Bentley is not the beneficiary. She's not the beneficiary, so the wrong person has signed this and sign off on this. Where does that leave the funeral home and the family? And so that's what this bill will allow these insurance companies to just basically verify. They do that already. We call them now. They verify that now. But if it's taken longer than 24 hours just to answer that question. But that's what we want to make absolute sure of, that we are getting this information in a timely manner, because if we determine that it is the incorrect person who have signed off on this assignment, then we have time to fix it before the scheduled funeral services. But if it's going to take 72 hours, funeral scheduled for Saturday, someone passed away on Wednesday or Thursday, that's very problematic for the family as well as the funeral homes.
All right, number 21, Vice Chairman.
Thank you, Representative. And I do have an insurance license, but I've never sold any burial policies. But now this would be any life insurance policy, not just burial policies, correct? If they were trying to say, this person had a $100,000 life insurance policy, and they're saying this is how I'm gonna pay for my funeral, that'd be correct, it'd be covered under this bill, even if it was just $10,000. It's any life insurance policy, correct?
Right, that's correct. And
I just, from a business standpoint, forget insurance and the funeral home business, and I know we can't do that. We don't want to do that. I fully understand where you are on this, because you're sitting there planning a funeral and you're accepting this as payment. But then we would get into this may not. You'd get into money they owe to anybody for any bill in the country, and I don't think I can expect them to get back in touch with you in 24 hours. I just don't, and I understand the urgency of it, but I just can't. I can't personally. I see problems with the bill, and I appreciate you bringing it, and I understand it, but not for every. I just, if it was a burial policy, I might could even think about it, but not on any life insurance policy. I just don't see how the company. A lot of times I can't get an answer in 24 hours on something like this, so I just don't. I see a problem with it, but I thank you and I understand your dilemma.
thank you.
I think we have a few folks signed up to speak. John Danger, are you present, sir? I don't think he's speaking to this one. I think he wanted to speak to the sub. Okay. All right. We don't have that bill before us this morning. Okay. All right. Very good. Okay. All right. What's the will of the committee? Oh, you have, okay.
Mr. Chairman, if I may ask a question regarding the sub, how do you have any suggestions how we need to address the sub at this time?
Mr. Danger is here to speak on the sub, so if you'd like for him to, Mr. Chairman, if you'd like for him to come and speak on the sub.
Well, I think we have to deal with the bill that's before us first. Number 28.
Mr. Chairman, before we move on to any discussion of any proposed substitute, I do want to make sure that Representative Bentley understands that this, I read the sentiments of this committee being that we are enormously sympathetic, and I would personally pledge to you to try to find some better avenue to get this information. It might not be through this committee, but happy to try to figure out the problem the industry's having and find a path forward that might be giving more timely information. It might be through another committee, but I just don't think this measure's going to get us where we want to go. So that being said, Mr. Chairman, at the proper time, I'd like to move that we. I'm sorry.
We have a couple more questions here. Number 7.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Representative Bentley, I was here ready to vote on your bill, and this being my second year, when I saw a substitute to your bill, I was very confused. So I am asking that someone explain how this is going to transpire as far as your bill and the substitute before we vote. I would like to understand a little better.
All right. Representative Carson.
Thank you. And Representative Bentley, my cousin.
Yes.
Thank you. I share some of the same concerns, but I just wanted to ask more for clarification. On line 18, it mentions 24 hours of receipt of notification. Is that, you had mentioned, Representative Bentley, you had mentioned 72 hours is a normal guideline. Is that guideline practiced by the insurance companies, assured by the insurance companies, or is that elsewhere in state law in regard to a 3-day, 72-hour time frame in regard to notification? I'm just asking for my own.
Thank you for that question. What I found is some companies will go right on and answer that question. The moment we call to notify them that one of their members has passed away, and I'm just calling from Bentley Mumford Mortuary to verify that Susie Kate says she's the beneficiary, and this funeral bill has came out to be $10,000. Will this policy cover that amount of a funeral service? And sometimes the companies will say, yes, it will. And they will ask me a series of questions so they can go ahead and start their process. And then there are some that will say, well, it'll take us up to 72 hours to get this done.
Okay.
And those that I've found that those that say it takes up to 72, sometimes it does. But it is a problem for the industry. It is. And
I can't even imagine, Mr. Chairman, I can't even imagine the stress you're under, because you would let's say, I'm just throw something out. There's a distracted driving accident, right?
Right.
At 8 o'clock at night on Christmas Eve.
mm-hmm.
And sorry?
Go right ahead. I'm just,
Okay.
yeah, it's a true story. Yes,
Right.
on a Christmas Eve, yes.
Well,
yes.
unfortunately, and yeah. And under this, so let me walk through this scenario, because I'm sympathetic, as is the committee, but I'm ignorant in regard to the how things work in your industry. So there's an accident at 8 o'clock. Someone is unfortunately pronounced deceased at, say, 10 o'clock at night, and they call Bentley Funeral Home or what
That's
have you.
correct. Mm-hmm.
Okay. In Butler, right?
Yes, in Butler.
Okay, in Butler.
Mm-hmm.
So, and then the following day, I mean, you don't have the luxury of vacations and guaranteed vacation time
Mm-hmm.
off in your business. You make a phone call at 9 o'clock in the morning the following morning, Christmas Day. How far off am I so far?
You are right on.
Okay, so 9 o'clock in the morning, you make a phone call, and from the point of that phone call, according to this, they would have 24 hours to answer and respond and verify, correct?
Correct.
Do they have 800 line? What is the normal practice in your industry in regard to interfacing with insurance companies? My overall question is 24 hours realistic, or do we need to go to some number of business days or what have you? And I realize that, go ahead.
And we can. We just wanted to have a number that we can start at, something less than 72 hours, because your scenario is spot on. I've ran across that on a few occasions where it was the holidays and we couldn't get information verified, and it puts the family in a really bad position of trying to have that service for their loved ones.
My other question is in regard to lines 27 and 28, top of the second page.
Mm-hmm.
Confirmation or denial that the proceeds of the life insurance policy would be sufficient to cover the decedent's funeral expenses. My question is in regard to cover the decedent's funeral expenses. Let's say someone from another funeral home, not Bentley Funeral Home, someone from another funeral home. Some of you on the committee know that I lost my brother in October to, what am I trying to say, liver cancer. And my brother Jeff had chosen cremation. Well, that is obviously much less expensive, as you know,
Mm-hmm.
than a full-on casket,
Yes,
viewing, all that stuff.
Right.
Probably a third the price. Am I right?
that's correct.
So if someone were to say to I'm just going to throw out ABC Insurance Company, we're going to have such and such funeral, and and the funeral home is expecting a full-on funeral, like I mentioned, versus a cremation and a very, very private ceremony, i.e. a third the price. My concern is, how is an insurance company going to know how much of those expenses? They're only going to know how much the life insurance face value is for, correct? I mean, they're only going to be able to say the policy is $100,000, the policy is $500,000. They're not going to know whether or not the funeral, per se, until they get the bill, right?
No,
you follow where I'm going?
I do. But if you may,
Yeah.
And again, let me just express my condolences to you and pass it up to your
I
brother.
appreciate it.
But to address that question, the funeral home should be only asking, is this person, the family has told us this person is the beneficiary. The family has gone through cremation. They've decided to go with cremation. The cremation bill is $2,500. Will this policy cover a $2,500 cremation service? That's all we need to know. We don't need to know if the policy is $20,000, $50,000. We just need to know that verifying that this person is the the family say this person is the beneficiary, we just need to make sure of that so we can give the paperwork to the right person to complete, and to verify that the family has selected funeral expenses that came out to be $2,500 or $5,000 for a cremation. Will this policy cover that amount? That's all that we need to know. That's all this bill is asking.
So you're not asking, do they have a $500,000 policy,
No.
$1 million
No.
policy? You're showing a quote for services, and you
Mhm.
want to know
Yes.
from ABC Insurance Company, will your policy cover this?
Absolutely, that's it.
Okay, I think I understand now.
Yes.
Thank you.
Great team.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. On the point that was just being asked, normally, the funeral home will, have an estimate of their cost, and is it anywhere in here where the estimate of their cost would be sent to the insurance company?
It's not listed in here, but we have to send that. Insurance companies won't finalize anything without, they'll tell us, during the conversation with the insurance company, they would tell us what they need from us to finalize the entire process. All we need for them to just tell us, this person is the beneficiary, just verify that this person is the beneficiary, that this policy will cover this dollar amount for the services. And they will begin, once we get those answers, they normally ask us a series of questions, and they'll tell us what they need. They need a death certificate. They need an itemized bill. They'll tell us all those things that they need to finalize the whole process on their end. And then we're just asking them, telling them what we need to finalize this service for their member for whatever date the family has decided they wanted to have this service. And again, the scenario that Representative Chairman Carson referenced is very real, because we've ran into that a lot of times when it's a holiday, and it just makes things really. And this is only, again, when families are paying for a service with life insurance, and they don't know who they don't have documentation with them when they come to the mortuary. And so that's basically all this bill is asking, that we just need those things verified.
One other thing, Mr. Chairman, where is the insurance commissioner's office on this? I mean, can't they work this out without us?
Well, I believe they can, but that's gonna probably prolong the time again, because if they get involved and make calls, and it's probably gonna go longer than, could go longer than 72 hours, I don't know.
What I'm asking is, can they do it by rule?
Okay, I understand.
To address the interest that you're presenting, but also allow the insurance companies to be in compliance with the policy provisions.
Okay.
So what is being said this morning is that policy provisions will not allow us to provide information other than to a person who has an interest in the policy. We can't give it to a third party. So from our point of view, the funeral home is a third party. The beneficiary, or the person who thinks they're the beneficiary, would need to be the one interfacing with the insurance company, in my experience. So I would think that the insurance commissioner should be able to take a look at this and come up with a rule or regulation that will help facilitate the timely resolution of these things.
I noticed Weston Burleson from the Insurance Commissioner's Office is with us. Do you have any comments that you could make regarding that?
Yes, Weston Burleson, Insurance Department. I'd be glad to chat with Representative about our legislation and find out what we can do. So if you want to circle up after this.
Could I maybe shed some light on this, if I may?
Please, go ahead.
Thank you. What we run into is a family will come in with an insurance policy, and the insurance policy may say Patty Bentley is the beneficiary. But there's been a change of beneficiary that we find out 2 months later. After the funeral and after everything's over, and it happens to be someone else that didn't sign off and they're not going to pay anything, so all of a sudden we're stuck. Also, when a family, excuse me, I ran to get over here kind of out of breath, but when the family sits down with us, we're mandated by federal and state law to give them an itemized copy of what the funeral expenses are before any services are rendered. So when we do that, they look at it and they say, yeah, we approve that. We also give them an insurance assignment. That insurance assignment has a POA clause in it, that they're actually giving us power of attorney to talk to the insurance company. All we're asking is that we call that insurance company, and I tell them I have the family of Patty Bentley sitting here with me. And it says on the policy that Robert Bentley is the beneficiary. Is that correct? We just need verification. The way it is now, and I've run into all kinds of situations where a husband passed away. Before we could get the insurance filed, his wife passed away. And there was no second beneficiaries on either policy. So we run into all kind of issues and problems, and it is a big problem. I don't know. Used to, insurance companies would talk to us. And I don't know if HIPAA got involved, and some of you insurance agents may know better. But used to, insurance companies would talk to us. We could call them, and they would tell us, you know, who the, you know, yeah. But there again, all we need is a yes or no from them, or sometimes, you know, I have called an insurance company, and they'll ask, is a member of the family there with you? And I'll tell them, yeah. And they'll talk to that member of that family. But a lot of times they won't even verify coverage. So it is an issue for us.
All right, thank you. Number 28.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Representative Williams, you know, and I know both of you are very astute business people, and I know that every funeral home that I know in the state is run by pretty smart people. Just out of curiosity, because you brought up another scenario, do you ever get any kind of basically a promissory note signed, because that would eschew to the state in the unfortunate event like you just described, with both the husband and wife pass away, there's funeral home bills due, then the policy beneficiary is going to be by law will be whoever the heirs at law. But if you have something basically a contract or a promissory note or something to that effect as a fallback, then you have something to move forward legally with to collect what's due and payable to you. Is that not true?
Well, that's true, but sometimes you can't get blood out of the turnip.
I understand.
Yeah.
I understand.
So, and we run into that quite often. But I guess probably the biggest issue is when the person who winds up being the beneficiary doesn't come in, and they don't even know they're the beneficiary. And so they've not been involved in any of the decision-making processes or purchases or anything.
Number 29.
Yes. Again, just expressing the sentiments that have already been shared, I think there is a problem. I think it needs to be addressed. I just don't know if right now the legislation we have before us will address some of the concerns that have been expressed in with the timing being so late. It sounds like maybe there's a path forward just working directly with the department itself, or I think any of us would be willing to work in the off season and kind of come up with some, if need be, if it can't be done through the department, come up with a solution to this, because if somebody does not pay, or they the insurance that they thought they had, and you found out after you've already rendered services, what happens then with you? Like, it sounds like if they don't have the money to pay you out of pocket, you got to eat the cost.
You're right, and this is something that I had worked on in the past. We have the Employees Retirement System, ERS, and Teachers Retirement System. Neither one of those entities will accept a beneficiary assignment. So we have a big problem there, and we tried to work on that with Representative Taylor last session before last. You know, and what happens, we have, especially in my district, my area, we had a lot of retired state employees, and where the husband and wife both work for Central State Hospital. The husband passes away, the wife is a beneficiary. The wife passes away 25 years later. She has one of her children as a beneficiary. Well, when they get that $60,000 from ERS, that's just a gift from God. They go drug it, tattoo it, spend it, blow it, and you know, if they would accept the insurance assignment when they're in there, and I hate to be so blunt, but while the tear is in the eye, they sign that paper, then we're guaranteed to get paid by the state.
And then just a follow-up to the question that was asked earlier about the sub is somebody at the right time would have to make an amendment to make to sub in and change it out, that to answer your question that you asked earlier. And then we would move on the amendment.
Number 22.
Thank you. I just wanted to make a comment. When we had my brother's funeral, when we were planning it, the funeral directors, I forgot the name, Representative Bailey, they're somewhere in Warner Robins, right off of Russell Parkway. They offered an immediate 15 to 20% off if we were to pay cash. Wow. And I'm just saying this to the committee. I have concerns, just like most of the other people on the committee. What I am saying is I think Representative Bentley has brought us an issue, and we do have an issue. Because I will tell you from my background, which is not mortuary services, but it's pretty close, it's CPA, there is a bad debt expense problem in this industry. I think we all agree on that. There are different ways of approaching it. I think your industry, Representative Willett, I think your industry is a victim of some citizens' poor planning. And I commit to both of you to work on a solution. I do have concerns about privacy, and I do have concerns about some of the wording here, but along with Chairman Clark, I do commit to working toward an issue, toward a solution on this issue.
Number 18.
Mr. Chairman, is it possible that you could make a commitment to them to do a study committee on this particular issue, working with the department to come back with a viable solution?
It might be a little late to do that this session. Yes.
So I think Representative Hughley had a fantastic idea to try to work with the department first before we went to the time and expense of the study committee. I would suggest we go down that path in the meantime, rather than going to the expense of a formal study committee right now. That would be my suggestion. It sounds like the department's willing, and we do have to try to help solve the problem. But I think Representative Hughley.
Mr. Chairman, if I could clarify myself, as chairman of the committee, you can study anything you want to without a formal study committee.
I think we can get some people together, and with the insurance commissioner's approval, I think we can get together and do that. So I will commit to you to make sure that happens. Okay?
Thank you, sir.
Yes. All right. Number 12.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I move we consider substitute House Bill 606 LC 43165S.
All right. Do we have someone, are you prepared to present on that?
I can introduce it, but we do have some experts here that would like to spend a few minutes. I know we're pressed with time. Do you want me to sit here, or do you want me to get out to the front?
Please.
Okay.
That's fine.
This is a bill that Jason Shaw brought back, I believe, in 2017, and it passed. Well, I think it had one vote against it. It was for the Rural Georgia Agribusiness and Rural Jobs Act. Rural, I know is hard to say, but basically what this says is until June the 30th, 2020, any county of this state that has a population of less than 50,000, according to the latest census of the United States, and on and after July the 1st, 2020, any county of this state that has a population of less than 75,000. Basically, it's incentivizing capital investment in these counties of up to $100 million. And this was an incentive for the Georgia Rural Jobs Act. And at this time, I would like to call, if it's okay with you.
Yes, go ahead.
I would like to have Tony with Advantage or either John Danger to come and speak to this substitute.
Please, go ahead.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. I'm Tony Toops with Advantage Capital. This is a renewal of the Georgia Agribusiness and Rural Jobs Program that was passed, as the representative said, in 2017, brought by Jason Shaw. We're very proud of the rollout and the types of businesses around the state that have been able to receive capital, that could not receive capital from existing community banks or private investors. This has really been a state-based response to a lot of the restrictions in banking you see through Dodd-Frank, things of that nature. And the variety, over 20 companies in rural Georgia have now received capital on terms that allow them to grow and create jobs. These companies range from, one of the firms we put capital into is down in Bainbridge, Danimer Plastics. They take and ferment canola oil and meld it with plastic polymer, and they're making biodegradable plastic straws, and they're getting ready to do business with McDonald's, Starbucks, and PepsiCo. There's been row crop companies that have been invested in. There have been cattle operations, small manufacturing companies, and the towns range from Bainbridge, Thomasville, DeLonga, Gordon, Barton, Eatonton, Lincolnton, Osceola, Baxley, Camilla, East Dublin, Dawsonville, Madison, Douglas, and there's more to come. One of the interesting features of this program has been that the tax credits pay for themselves. So DCA administers the program. Each applicant, and there's 5 funds that are participating, when they submit a business plan to DCA, have to commit to creating and retaining certain numbers of jobs that will put enough money back into the general fund to cover the cost of the credits. We're all well on the track to doing that, and all this capital will be fully invested by July 1. So this is a renewal of what's been a very successful program with a great track record. We think it's exemplary. A number of other states are now studying. Georgia's, in fact, action in this regard as a model legislation. In fact, the NCSL has done a legis brief on Georgia's program, modeling and showcasing the ability to bring private capital and private investment into rural areas of the state, which is going to be needed probably more than ever in the next coming years. And with that, I'll let my colleague John Danger, who's from a competing fund, speak to, if that's okay.
Yes, go ahead. I think we stand by. I think we may have some questions of you, but please, Mr. Danger, come ahead.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman and members of the committee. I wish I went by Danger, but I'm too old for that now. My name is John Danger, and I'm with Stonehenge Capital Company. I want to thank you for the opportunity to speak to you today, and Representative Carson, I want to express my condolences as well for your loss. For over 20 years, our firm has invested in small businesses located in underserved markets, whether it be in industries or communities, or capital markets just don't exist anymore. Personally, I'm a multi-generational, lifelong Georgian. Grew up in Tucker, hunted rabbits and squirrels up in Canton, and I love our state, and I want to do what I can to help rural Georgia. I spend most of my time, I run our fund in Georgia, and I spend most of my time in my car going and visiting with companies in rural Georgia who have good opportunities. They're accompanying these owners, and I listen to their goals and challenges and try and figure out how we can help them. I also spend my time with our portfolio companies, and I've actually been to the National Cattleman Show in San Antonio to help one of our clients do their marketing. I've driven down to Eastman to do a strategic growth initiative planning and connected our companies to potential customers they had no access to beforehand. So we've invested in 4 companies. We got 2 other companies that should be closing here by April, and so we'll be done with our $20 million allocation. I just wanted to kind of share with you, though, 2 investments we've made, because I think it really highlights why Garja is important. The first one is a company called Doorcraft or Cosmo Cabinets there in Eatonton. When Horton Homes closed their Eatonton facility, everybody that worked there had to go scramble and find a new job. And one of the ladies that worked in the manufacturing line had to find an equivalent job over an hour away. Now, she had to drive an hour away, and that took all that time from spending time with her kids, from spending time going to their events and all that. When Cosmo Cabinets decided they wanted to go ahead and open up a new facility in Eatonton where they would compete with the Chinese imports, and then they decided to really grow, they looked around. There wasn't a lot of capital available in their local market, so they came to us. We invested $5.5 million in that company for them to get equipment and to hire new people. And so now Rena, who was the person I was referring to, drives 10 minutes to work every day because now she has a job back in Eatonton, and she doesn't have to drive an hour every day, and she gets to spend all that time with her kids. Frankly, that makes me so happy. I think that's what Garja is really all about. One of the other deals that I'm very, very proud of is a company called Georgia Dental Management. They're located in Eastman. Access to quality health care, as we all know, is a problem in rural Georgia and throughout all of Georgia. You know, if you need more than a basic cleaning or a filling, and you're in a rural city, you're probably going to have to drive half a day to go take off half a day or more just to be able to go get your teeth worked on, whether it be a implant or something pulled and those types of things. It's just not available. So Georgia Dental, with the money that we've given them, have acquired 2 dental practices and are managing 2 other ones. The key to that, though, is they're also bringing those big town services that those people in those communities had to drive to those local communities through a dentist that goes around to each of those locations. So now, if I'm in Bainbridge, Georgia, I don't have to drive down to Tallahassee to get my tooth removed or to go under IV sedation. So we're really bringing access to quality health care to these small communities on the dental side. I feel pretty good about that one, too, to be honest with you. There are a number of other companies we've met with that have capital, but that have capital needs, but it may not be for 6, 12, 18 months. So I spend time talking about strategy with them.
All right. We're a little bit short on time here,
Yes, sir.
so we do have a question.
Okay. Thank you.
Representative Hughley.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank both of you gentlemen. My question is a process question. On behalf of Representative Bentley, it appears that she did not know that this was going to be done to her bill today. And I'm very concerned about that. And I'm concerned in terms of whether or not she would like this to go forward under her bill number and name.
Representative.
So, thank you, Representative Hughley. I was aware that there was going to be some language added. I just did not realize it was this. Right. And I apologize if I created any confusion with this group here as well as with you all. I was expecting some language to 606, but I just didn't realize it was this much. I didn't realize it was to this point. And to answer your question regarding adding this language, I don't have a problem with that.
Right.
Okay.
Right,
If that's
thank you.
acceptable by this committee, yes, I don't have a problem with it. Because they worked to put it together, but, so I don't have an issue with, adding it if need
All
be.
right. Thank you. Number 7, Ms. Davis, Representative Davis.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I have a question.
Yes, ma'am.
Apparently, this is a renewal, and that was an answer to my initial question. But is this a continuation of the $100 million?
It's a new round of funding.
It's a new round of
Yes, ma'am.
funding.
So the prior funding that was approved in 2017 is either all invested or fully committed to be invested, and there is great demand for additional capital in rural small businesses throughout the state. In fact, the five funds see right now that the pipeline of demand is at least 94 million, and we know it'll fulfill the full second round of 100.
All right.
Thank
Okay, we're getting close on time. Number 27, we have one more question.
I'm just curious about why not using the tier system as a way to distinguish who's eligible and not. Why not? 75,000 seems to be, a large county, and I just didn't know what your thoughts were on that.
We've had a lot, that's a very good question. We've had a lot of discussions about what is rural. The USDA, for example, has 9 different definitions. The initial discussions 3 years ago I was party to. The thought was, let's start with 50, and in the pipeline development and as our investment teams have scoured the state, we see that 75,000 brings in still what we would consider rural, but businesses in need of capital. So through discussions with members, that's sort of become a consensus number.
All right. One more. 22.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I know we're very close on time, but I feel like I can speak a little bit with regard to experience on this. I used to work for a tax credit syndication group that's in the same business as Advantage Capital and Stonehenge Capital. And thank you guys for being here. You guys are from, I think, St. Louis and Baton Rouge.
I'm here.
Well, Stonehenge is based in Louisiana, I understand. I want everybody to understand what you are being proposed to vote on. This is another $100 million, allocation of $100 million of insurance premium tax credits, which would have to be honored by the Georgia Department of Insurance. I will say I'm not taking a position either way. I would encourage the committee to receive some information, number one, in regard to what kind of investments have been made previously. Number two, what kind of fees and profits are being made on this. And number three, one thing that we asked for in the Ways and Means Committee, and I say this to all committee members, one thing we asked for in the Ways and Means Committee and Senate Finance is how much are we getting as far as direct investment and jobs, and how much in wages and jobs are we getting for the tax credits that we award. I fully appreciate what you're doing, because rural Georgia is very much a key initiative of this House, particularly with the Rural Development Council. I would just encourage the committee to strongly consider what has been the track record, what has been the cost per job in regard to state credits awarded in regard to this, as well as with the fees and so forth. And correct me if I'm wrong, sir, but this is, Tony, this is very similar to the New Markets Tax Credit Program, correct? And where it's a fund structure, correct?
Yes, sir. Yes.
With fees and
I can address all the issues you've raised if I may. Okay. So the tax credit nominal value is 60% of the 100, so it would be 60 million of the 100 million. With market discounts, it basically works out to about a 50-50 match between our capital and the tax credit capital. The tax credit redemption is delayed for 3 years, so that all 100% of the capital we raise must be invested in small businesses. Only then can the credits be redeemed over a 5-year period. They're capped and then sunsetted. And the application, very important, the application to DCA has to show that our investments are going to create enough jobs and sustain those jobs to cover the cost of the credit. We're on track to do that. We estimate the cost per job right now about $14,000 per year for Georgia tax credits. We have we've invested, the 5 funds so far have invested $72.5 million. The additional $27.5 from round 1 is fully committed, and the job numbers are all showing that will be revenue positive based on those credits, which is one of the unique features why NCSL looked at this program so closely and did the legis brief. Same thing for round 2. So it's about a 50-50 match between private capital, tax credit impact. The tax credits are non-refundable. They are non-transferable. They are capped, and they are limited. They are delayed, I should say, so that the revenue impact is put off into the future, whereas the immediate impact of the benefit of the investment is within the next 24 to 36 months.
Thank you for that. And if I may, Mr. Chairman, I know
Yes,
we're
sir.
running close on time.
Right.
Was there not a sunset on this program previously of 2021? Or
There
2020?
was, it's done in rounds, like new markets. So that was round one. So round one was fully subscribed, fully allocated, it's about to be fully invested. This would be round two, yes.
Okay,
So you
thanks.
could, yes, it is sunsetted by definition.
All right, now we have a motion on the substitute here. We've had questions, we've had testimony. Is there a second? We have a motion and a second on the substitute. All in favor, say aye. All opposed? All right, I believe the ayes have it, so we
Mr. Chairman, I just want to thank you all again for your time this morning on this very important issue for the funeral industry. And thank you for allowing this amendment to be presented this morning. So
All right,
thank you.
Very good, thank you.